Hello and welcome to i.made, the channel that not only tells you that, well, that I made a thing. This month I'm turning a free ATX computer power supply into a lab bench power supply. Let's do it. Now the first step in this process is obviously getting yourself an old power supply. This power supply was acquired by one of a series of free computers I was given. Alright, I've come out to the shop, and some of the keen-eyed of you would have noticed that this is a different power supply to what I took apart in the time-lapse. When I took that apart, I realised that it was a really old power supply with different connectors, not the typical ATX connector that I'm used to, and like most power supplies are nowadays. So I put that back in, took another PC apart. It was really quickly, I didn't bother filming it. The idea is still the same. Old PC that I got for free, took the power supply out of it, and now here I am. So now what I want to do is this power supply is 3.3 volts at 15 amps, 5 volts at 20 amps, and 12 volts at 10 amps. And all the negatives are the exact same with different amperage, but I don't want the negative volts, I just want the positive values. So that's what I want. And to get that in total, I need to wire all of these positive and negative wires into one connection point. So I've got an old power supply connector that I've got here, so I'm going to use negative as black and positive as yellow just for all of them, but I know that the power supply, 5 volts is yellow, 12 volts is red, and 3.3 volts is orange. I'm going to wire those all into one connection and then line them out, and then we'll head inside, give it a clean, and we'll see the finished project. Alright, so I've finished taping up all the wires, and as you can see, the ground wire is very big compared to the 5 volt and 3.3, which are only 3 wires, and then the 12 volt is about 6 wires. Now all of these wires here are the negatives, like negative 12 volts, negative 5 volts, negative 3.3, but for my power supply, and most ATX, it's the green wire that is the power supply on. So when this gets connected to ground, the power supply will actually spin up, like the fan will start up and whatnot. Now you could put a switch between this and ground and have a switch that you would like to use, but I'm just going to use the switch on the back of the power supply. So I'm going to twist this into the ground, so every time I turn the power supply on, it's just on. Alright, so that's that connected. I've got 3.3 volts, 5 volts, 12 volts and ground, and now I'm just going to pump them full of solder. Okay, bad practice, but I'm just going to sit my hot iron in the vise because I'm lazy. Okay. So now, as I said, I've got a few of these. I'm just going to cut some lengths and attach them to individual spots. Given that I'm not going to use any of this purple wire, I think I might shorten that and use that as my 3.3 volt point. So now you can see I've got 4 wires. I've got red, yellow, purple for the 3.3 and black for the ground. And I'm just going to attach these, and these are from the power supply, so I know they can handle that amount of voltage. It's going to get a bit iffy, but I'm not going to be using the 20 amps that are capable of it. It's just, you know, it's there if I ever need to use it. If I need to use it, I'll beef up to some really thick cable, but for the 2 to 5 amps that I'm going to use, maybe 10, it can kind of deal with it. 10 amps is kind of pushing it, but it'll be able to handle it. Alright, now as I'm soldering these, I'm going to have a little discussion about what I plan to do with this. Now, as you've probably seen, because if you're watching my video, you've probably seen many others like this, but I have big plans for this project. I plan to mount it underneath my desk, which is my current workspace, And the project, ideally, in the future, I'm going to have a nice beefy buck boost converter that I'll add to the 12 volt output, so I can go above 12 volts or below 12 volts if I ever need. I don't plan on needing it, but it will be good to have it there for if I do. Now I also want to incorporate this into my desk. So that means, as you'll see later in the video, I will be mounting this underneath my desk, but I haven't got any banana plugs or the courage just quite yet to drill and incorporate the banana plugs into the core of my desk. So that means that I'm going to be attaching these wires to what do you call it? Like breadboard compatible female breadboard clips, so that I can, I'll just chuck some electrical tape around this, so that I can get a normal jumper, breadboard jumper, and just plug them in, 12, 5, 3.3, and that will work for all my breadboard projects. Anyway, you'll see that in the rest of the video. I'm going to jump through this next time. Next time you see me, we'll be cleaning and beginning to incorporate this into where I want it to place. Alright, so now I'm back at my desk. I've got the power supply, I gave it a nice clean down, and I've got these male to female jumper wires. Now my plan is I'm going to cut off the male end, solder that to the end of these, and so I can put a male to male breadboard connector into this, connect it to my breadboard, and have 3.3, 5, and 12 volts. Now I've tried to color code this because it was a fresh batch. So I've got black for ground, red for red, orange for orange, and brown for what is the leftover one, the yellow. And then I'm going to label them anyway when I wire them into my desk. Alright, let's get to doing that. Alright, so I've just put it in place for version 1. You can see it there on the top of my computer with the wires going up and the 4 wires coming out there. Now I'm going to 3D design and 3D print an enclosure for that with labels for 12, 3.3, 5 volts and ground. Let's go to that. Now I'm just plugging the wires into their made holes and hot gluing them in. So now I'm just going to secure it down and we'll test it out. And there we have it. I have it hooked up to my power supply. So there we go. Then we got 5.1 volts. And finally, there we go, 12 volts. So that's how you make an ATX power supply. Nice and universal for your electronics projects. Alright guys, that's all I've got for this month. Tune in next month and see what I'm up to then. See you in the next video.